From an historian's point of view, there is no such thing as tomorrow, the subject of this conference. There are only tomorrows, plural. There's one yesterday, only one. There may be many interpretations of what happened yesterday. There was only one. But there are many, many tomorrows. And I passionately believe that we can only choose the right tomorrow from all the tomorrows that are available to us if we bring historical understanding to bear on our present predicament. This great country was founded as part of a global backlash against European and to some degree also American empire. And yet, in the wake of its foundation, it rapidly emerged as a beacon, as a fortress of the values of what we think of as Western civilization. In my most recent book, Civilization, I've tried to work out what it was that made Western civilization distinctive from all the other civilizations that had gone before it, made it in the end more successful in prolonging human life, in increasing human wealth, and improving our mastery over nature. I think there were 6 peculiar institutions and ideas, I call them the killer applications, that set the West apart from the rest. One was competition in the economic and political sphere. A second was the scientific revolution that began in the 17th century. A third was the notion that the rule of law should be the basis of social and political order, and on that basis, representative government could flourish. A fourth was the revolution in medicine that began in the late 19th century and more than doubled human life expectancy in the West. A fifth, innocent enough in its nature but dramatic in its economic consequences, was the consumer society. And the sixth and final killer application was the work ethic that Max Weber quite incorrectly identified as a Protestant phenomenon, when of course it was staring him in the face 100 years ago that it was equally a Jewish phenomenon. These 6 things, it seems to me, are what make Israel the dynamic and extraordinary country that it is. They're all here in abundance. And the question we have to ask ourselves is what the future of this great state is in a rapidly changing world where these so-called killer applications are being downloaded in parts of the world that previously did not know them. Parts, I emphasize, because they are not being downloaded in all of the world. I want to talk about 4 great trends that fundamentally will affect the future of this country and decide the tomorrow that it ultimately has. The first is the huge economic and I think also geopolitical shift that is occurring from west to east. China's the biggest and fastest of all industrial revolutions. China's economic transformation is in large measure happening because it has downloaded most, though not all, of the West's killer applications, ranging from economic competition, though not, of course, political competition, right the way through to the work ethic. India, too, which enjoys nearly all the institutions that I've described to you as distinctively Western, that transformation, too, will fundamentally alter the balance of the world, no longer just demographically, but also economically too. That seems to me probably the most important trend of our time, and I think future historians will look back on it and say, this was the era in which Western ascendancy ceased to be the dominant story of mankind. After 500 years, when the West essentially beat the rest, the early 21st century was the time when the story changed And the rest, led by China and by India, began to catch up and even to overtake, since, after all, in just 5 years' time, the International Monetary Fund predicts that the economy of China will be larger than that of the United States.